Hey everybody, this is your Digital Super Saiyan 3, back with another video, and I today am feeling super. Why? Because this is the first time I'm ever reviewing a DC movie. And what DC movie am I reviewing? Well, as you can tell by this shirt, Superman, the 1978 film directed by Richard Donner, starring Christopher Reeve, Margaret Kidder, Marlon Brando, and Gene Hackman. Superman 1978. Well, I could say that this film does hold an importance in the world of superhero movies, let alone comic book movies. I mean, this one definitely defined the genre of the superhero films. And as you all know, Superman has the most well-known origin story in the history of comics. Basically, his story goes like this, if you all don't know the story of Superman. But if you do, then you all know what I'm talking about. Kal-El was the son of one of Krypton's greatest scientists, Jor-El. Jor-El had learned that the end of Krypton was happening. However, the Kryptonian Council, being the arrogant douchebags they are, practically just tell Jor-El not to warn the people of Krypton. Basically because they don't believe Jor-El and call Jor-El a crackpot. Jor-El in this movie was played by Marlon Brando. You know, the Godfather. And yes, this was following Marlon Brando after his performance in The Godfather that helped bring back his career, or reignited his acting career. Basically, to make sure that his son would survive the explosion, Jor-El and his wife Lara put their son Kal-El into a rocket ship, which at the time was mostly made of crystals. They put him in a spaceship and sent him to Earth, where he will be able to soak up yellow sun energy and gain super godlike powers. And he crash landed in a small town called Smallville, which was in the middle of Kansas, where he met the Kents, and the Kents adopted him and christened him Clark Kent. We get to his teen years as Clark Kent, was being shunned by the jocks. And yeah, Clark was not the most popular guy in school, but he had a crush on a girl named Lana Lane. And, well, yeah, Clark, like I said, wasn't the most popular guy in school. So we see him run back to his house using his super speed, and then we learn that, his dad passed away. Or shall I say, Jonathan Kent died of a freaking heart attack after he spent time, after having a father-son moment with his father. Then his father happens to have a heart attack and dies. Then Clark is left alone with his mother, Martha, and Clark says, "I need to go up north," and goes to the North Pole, where he throws the crystal that Jor-El put into his baby ship. Clark learned that he was an alien, as well as having to learn that the crystal sprung into a ginormous fortress called the Fortress of Solitude. There where Clark could get answers about who he was, or who his people were, and the knowledge of the planet Krypton. And soon Clark moved on to the city of Metropolis, where he became a reporter for the Daily Planet. There he met the likes of Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, and the editor, Perry White. And of course, Clark had to disguise himself using his wimpy demeanor by pretending to have wimpy demeanor and a pair of nerdy glasses. Yep. And soon, well, things go, well, haywire, especially when Clark soon reveals he is the savior that Metropolis needs, as well as the fact that the savior that people need as well, donning the name Superman. And we see Superman do a lot in this movie. Like, we see him save Lois Lane from a helicopter after her helicopter ride was after a saboteur after the helicopter ride goes haywire, and of course we see Superman not only save Lois Lane, but we see him save a cat from a tree. We see him stop robberies and putting away robbers and stuff. Of course we then are introduced to Lex Luthor in this movie. In this movie, Lex Luthor, played by Gene Hackman, is just a straight up supervillain in this movie. Really no build up to his supervillain, no mere origin story, I was going to say. We really don't get an origin story from Lex Luthor, nor is he portrayed as a legitimate businessman. No, instead he's just a straight-up criminal mastermind. I mean, it was the 70s. Anyway, Lex Luthor was planning the crime of the century, as he claims, along with his dim-witted sidekicks like Otis and his secretary, female henchwoman named Miss Tessmacher. Yeah, Luthor has to have these people help him with his crimes. Anyway, Lois Lane arranges for, Superman to meet, basically has a date with Clark Kent, but also she decides to also interview Superman and gets the scoop on him. In which Superman comes to her apartment. And, Superman speaks a lot in this scene, basically by telling her about where he comes from, and basically about his likes and dislikes, and about his height and weight. And also, they go for a romantic flight scene, and this scene is meant to be very romantic, since it is kind of built as a scene that fits its respected emotion of it being meant to be a romantic scene. And then later he returns to Lois's apartment as Clark Kent, and Lois and Clark go on a date. Of course, Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen are then sent to the West Coast to do a story, while Clark is left behind in Metropolis until he gets a received transmission from Lex Luthor. Let alone the fact that before the part at the Daily Planet where Clark gets a message from Lex Luthor, and his dim-witted crony Otis steal the missiles, along with Miss Tessmacher. And Superman makes his way to Lex Luthor's lair, where Lex Luthor tells him his plan, and how Superman calls him a diseased maniac, and how Lex says Even with your great speed, you can't stop both of them, but me with my detonator can. Of course, Lex talks about how he plans to kill many people, including wiping out the entirety of California for some real estate scheme. And of course, he plans to also kill Superman as a bonus. Superman is lured into a trap. He finds kryptonite that was locked in a lead chest with a chain. As Superman got near the kryptonite, he began to weaken. And, well, Lex Luthor put the kryptonite around Superman's neck and threw Superman into his crazy, unusual swimming pool. Yeah, since they're in an underground subway station. Anyway, Miss Tessmacher gets a little bit of a change of heart when she hears that one of the missiles was heading for New Jersey, and her mother was in New Jersey. So Miss Tessmacher decides to save Superman, albeit of her own free will, and she gets the kryptonite off of Superman, and Superman decides to head right for the missiles. We see Superman was able to get one of the missiles, and then, of course, there's a lot happening in California. We see Superman having to stop an earthquake, saving a bus from a collapsing bridge, or saving a bus from falling off a bridge, I meant, as well as having to stop a flood at the Hoover Dam, especially going to the Hoover Dam, and all culminating with Lois Lane dying. And of course, Superman then realizes that he came in too late, and we see Superman spin the Earth backwards to rewind time to the point where he actually saves Lois. Yeah, this is one of the craziest endings I've ever seen to a superhero movie, let alone a comic book movie. I mean, yeah, Superman did this because he wasn't able to save Lois, because of how much Lois means to him. It's very touching, but at the same time, I digress. It was still a bizarre scene. And, well, he takes Luthor and Otis to jail. He was able to stop both the missiles, all because he spun the Earth backwards. So, but what about General Zod and his cronies? I forgot to mention them. Well, yeah, I forgot to talk about General Zod in this movie. He appears at the beginning after he and his associates, Non and Ursa, were charged of treason and sent into the Phantom Zone. So, in a sense, I gotta say happy 40th to Superman, the movie. To believe that many years have passed since 1978, and look where we are today with superhero films. Having films like Avengers Infinity War, having films like The Dark Knight, Captain America Winter Soldier, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. Let's see. Wonder Woman, Batman vs. Superman. So many superhero movies. And all because this one was the one that helped kick off the genre, or give it the extra boost into pop culture. I say I owe a lot to Superman 78. And I gotta say thank you, Superman. Thank you, Superman, for helping to bring the genre full circle. Anyway, faster than a speeding bullet, this is your Digital Super Saiyan 3, and I'll see you next time.